A woman's passport rips in half. The white airline supervisor's fingers grip the two edges, her smile as sharp and cold as a blade. "You people always cause problems," the supervisor smirks, tossing the fragments of the document toward Dr. Evelyn Reed. "No flight for you today." Dr. Reed stands frozen at the gate desk in London's Heathrow Airport, her phone, which she'd raised just a moment too late, capturing the immediate aftermath. The torn document, her only valid identification thousands of miles from her Chicago home, lies scattered across the counter like a casualty. Evelyn's voice remains steady, a marvel of control against the tremor in her hands. "Do you have any idea what you've just done? I have a right to travel." The supervisor laughs, a short, barking sound of contempt, and presses her security call button. She's becoming aggressive. Typical. Little does this airline employee know, she just destroyed the passport of a woman who could dismantle her entire career and reshape the airline itself with a single phone call. Dr. Evelyn Reed adjusts the lapel of her tailored blazer as she enters Heathrow's Terminal 5. At 42, she carries herself with the quiet, unshakable confidence of someone who has stared down pandemics and navigated the intricate politics of global health initiatives. Today should have been a moment of triumph. She's just secured a landmark funding partnership with European Health Ministries, a deal that will save countless lives. But a deep exhaustion tugs at her shoulders after a week of relentless negotiations. The terminal bustles with the chaotic energy of morning travelers. Evelyn navigates toward the first-class check-in for Transoceanic Air Alliance, her sleek luggage trailing behind her. Her mind is already racing ahead to Chicago, to her foundation, to the debriefing she will deliver to her international board. Brenda Walsh stands at the priority check-in counter. At 38, she's honed what she considers to be sharp instincts over her career, a self-proclaimed ability to spot trouble before it starts. Her eyes narrow as Evelyn, a black woman traveling alone, approaches the first-class line. Brenda nudges her younger colleague, Sarah. "Another one with a priority pass they probably shouldn't have," Brenda whispers, not bothering to lower her voice completely. Sarah shifts uncomfortably. "Let's just process everyone quickly, Brenda. The flight's nearly full." Brenda ignores her. She straightens her supervisor's uniform and plasters on a customer service smile that doesn't reach her cold, assessing eyes. Evelyn places her passport and first-class ticket on the counter. Brenda's fingers hesitate before picking them up, as if reluctant to touch something Evelyn has handled. "First class?" Brenda questions, her voice laced with skepticism as she examines the ticket far longer than necessary. "Are you sure you're in the right line?" Evelyn meets her gaze directly. "Yes, I am a platinum member flying first class to O'Hare." Brenda scrutinizes Evelyn's passport, turning it page by page, her eyes flicking from the photo to Evelyn's face multiple times, as if trying to find a flaw. "Business trip?" The question comes with an unmistakable hint of disbelief. "Yes, a series of meetings with European health organizations." Behind Evelyn, a line of other first-class passengers begins to form. They receive cursory document checks from Sarah, while Brenda continues her minute inspection of Evelyn's passport. "There's something suspicious about this," Brenda mutters, loud enough for those nearby to overhear. She types something into her computer, her long acrylic nails clicking aggressively against the keyboard. Evelyn maintains her composure, a mask of scholarly patience, though her jaw tightens. She has experienced this micro-scrutiny before, the silent, pervasive accusation that she does not belong in spaces of privilege or power. Finally, with a sigh of theatrical reluctance, Brenda prints Evelyn's boarding pass. Gate B42, boarding in 90 minutes. She takes a red pen and circles something on the pass before handing it over. Evelyn notices the letters SSCK, Secondary Security Screening Check, as she walks away. As Evelyn disappears toward the main security concourse, Brenda reaches for her desk phone. Her eyes narrowed with suspicion, requesting a special security check for a passenger at gate B42. Evelyn passes through the main security checkpoint without incident. She purchases a bottle of water and checks her messages before heading to her gate. The boarding area is already beginning to fill with passengers for the transatlantic flight. Evelyn settles into a seat, pulling up research notes on her tablet. Passenger Dr. Evelyn Reed, please approach the gate desk. Evelyn looks up. Two uniformed airport security officers stand beside Brenda, who points a crimson-nailed finger directly at her. Dozens of other passengers turn to stare. What is this about? Evelyn asks, approaching the desk with measured, unhurried steps. It's just a random security check, ma'am, one of the officers explains, though his apologetic glance toward her suggests otherwise. Brenda stands with her arms crossed, watching with satisfaction as the officers lead Evelyn to a side area designated for additional screening. They begin methodically searching her carry-on, emptying its entire contents onto a table for all to see. I would prefer this be done in a private screening room, Evelyn requests quietly. This is standard procedure, Brenda interjects loudly before an officer can respond. Unless, of course, you have something to hide. Evelyn's expensive laptop, confidential papers from her foundation, and personal items lay exposed to the gaze of every passerby. She maintains a neutral expression, a scientist observing an experiment, despite the humiliation burning in her chest. When the search reveals nothing remotely suspicious, Brenda steps forward, unwilling to concede defeat. There's still an issue with her documentation. I need to see her passport again. Evelyn hands her the passport. Brenda examines it with theatrical suspicion. You visited 12 countries in the past year? Brenda's voice rises deliberately, projecting to the watching crowd. That's highly unusual. I am the director of a global health foundation. International travel is a core part of my job. Brenda taps at her tablet. I need to verify these entry stamps. Some of them look questionable. Meanwhile, a white businessman in a nearly identical suit approaches the counter. The other gate agent, Sarah, processes his passport, equally filled with international stamps, in under 30 seconds. Evelyn observes this blatant discrepancy. Excuse me, can you explain why my travel is being delayed while other passengers are being processed immediately? Brenda's face hardens. I'm just doing my job thoroughly. You are being unnecessarily difficult. Then I'd like to speak with your supervisor, Evelyn states calmly. Brenda's cheeks flush with anger. I am the supervisor, she snaps. And all managers are busy with pre-flight preparations. If you insist on escalating this, you will almost certainly miss your flight. This raw, naked abuse of power is a spectacle as old as time. In this moment, Brenda holds all the cards, the uniform, the authority, the system designed to believe her. Have you ever been in a situation where the truth was on your side, but you were completely powerless to make it matter? What does one do when the rules are being used as weapons, and the referee is the one attacking you? Brenda shifts her impromptu interrogation to the center of the waiting area. She speaks louder now, ensuring her performance is heard by as many passengers as possible. So you claim you're traveling for business? Her voice drips with performative skepticism. She positions herself to physically block Evelyn's path toward the boarding lane. What exactly does someone like you do that requires so much international travel? Evelyn stands straight, a pillar of composure against the storm of aspersion Brenda is orchestrating. I am a scientist, and the director of a foundation, returning from meetings with our European partners regarding global vaccine distribution." Brenda lets out a sharp, dismissive laugh. "A scientist? An executive? Really?" Her eyebrows rise in exaggerated disbelief. "Let me see your business cards, then." Evelyn retrieves a sleek card case from her jacket pocket and presents her card. Brenda snatches it, ostentatiously examining the embossed logo and Evelyn's title. Dr. Evelyn Reed, Director, the Meridian Global Health Foundation. "These are easily faked, you know," Brenda declares, waving the card for the benefit of her audience. "Anyone can print up fancy titles these days." A small crowd has now formed at a distance, their discomfort warring with their inability to look away. An elderly couple exchanges worried whispers. A young student starts recording on his phone. "My credentials are legitimate, as is my passport," Evelyn states firmly. "I have cooperated fully with all of your questions. It is time for you to process my boarding." Brenda's expression hardens further. "If you're really who you claim to be, you won't mind showing me what's on your work laptop. Scientists and executives have presentations, emails, proof of their business activities." Evelyn's eyes narrow almost imperceptibly. "That laptop contains medically confidential and proprietary data from our research partners. I am not authorized to display that information to airline personnel." "A convenient excuse," Brenda smirks, turning to address the watching crowd. "Or perhaps there's nothing there to show. This is what happens when we don't properly verify who's flying on our planes, people claiming to be things they are not." Evelyn sees multiple phones recording her humiliation now. Still, she keeps her voice level, the epitome of reason. "I have shown you a valid passport and I have answered all of your questions. Either process my boarding pass or find me a manager who will." Brenda's face flushes a deep, blotchy red at this direct challenge to her authority. She holds Evelyn's passport up to the harsh fluorescent light, a piece of grand theater. "This binding, it looks tampered with. Do you see the slight separation here? It's a classic sign of document forgery." Before Evelyn can even respond, Brenda grips the passport firmly with both hands and with a sharp, violent twist, pulls. The binding separates with a sickening, tearing sound. Pages flutter to the counter like wounded birds. Gasps rise from the onlookers. Evelyn's eyes widen, her scientific composure momentarily broken by genuine shock. "Oops," Brenda says, her voice devoid of remorse. "Looks like this fake passport just fell apart on me. Genuine documents don't do that." Evelyn's heart pounds against her ribs. She watches her only means of international identification, destroyed before her very eyes. She is now stranded, thousands of miles from home, with no valid travel documents. "Security!" Brenda calls out, her voice triumphant. "I need assistance with a passenger who was attempting to travel using fraudulent documentation." Evelyn's hands tremble slightly, but she forces them steady as she raises her own phone, now clearly and openly recording. "I am recording this," she says, her voice quiet but ringing with authority. "You have just deliberately and illegally destroyed my legitimate United States passport." Brenda just shrugs, basking in her victory. "Damaged during inspection. It happens sometimes with counterfeit documents. You'll need to take that up with your embassy." She smiles, a cold, vicious slash across her face. That could take weeks. In that moment, taking a deep breath, Evelyn centers herself. The white-hot rage burning inside her transforms, cooling into something harder, denser, more focused. A cold fusion of purpose. She knows exactly what needs to happen next. Her eyes lock with Brenda's, and she makes a decision that will forever alter both of their futures. Evelyn gathers the tattered remains of her passport with deliberate, painstaking care. Each movement is measured and controlled, The very opposite of the emotional, chaotic reaction Brenda clearly hoped to provoke. The crowd of spectators watches in a tense, uncomfortable silence, the raw injustice of the moment palpable in the air. "I wish to file an official report," Evelyn states, her voice as steady as a surgeon's hand. "Not with your airline supervisors, with the airport police. Willful destruction of a foreign national's travel documents is a criminal offense under British law." Brenda's smug expression falters, just for a second. This was not the tearful, panicked response she had expected. "You're welcome to try," she scoffs, recovering quickly. "But you'll still miss your flight. And good luck explaining your fake passport to the authorities." "I'll take that chance." Evelyn carefully slips the passport fragments into a protective sleeve in her bag. Her fingers brush against her phone, her lifeline. "Security can escort you to the police station," Brenda offers with false helpfulness. "It's quite a distance from this terminal. Of course, I'll need to remove you from today's flight manifest immediately." "I will wait right here while the airport police are summoned," Evelyn counters calmly. "I believe they have an office in this very terminal, just past customs." A security officer approaches, his face a mask of uncertainty as he tries to assess the rapidly deteriorating situation. Evelyn addresses him directly, bypassing Brenda entirely. "I need to step aside for a private moment to contact my embassy before I file my police report. Is there a quiet area nearby where I might do that?" The officer, clearly relieved to be given a reasonable procedural request, points to a small, cordoned-off waiting area for families. "Over there, ma'am. Please remain in the terminal." Evelyn nods and walks away with a quiet dignity that seems to enrage Brenda even further. Once seated in the semi-private corner, Evelyn pulls out her phone. Her fingers don't dial the U.S. Embassy. Instead, they tap a contact labeled with a single, unassuming name: Arthur. The call connects after one ring. "Arthur, it's Evelyn. I have a situation." Her voice is low, ensuring privacy. "I need your personal intervention at Heathrow, Terminal 5, Gate B42. My passport has been deliberately destroyed by one of your gate supervisors." She discreetly snaps a photo of Brenda's name badge from across the room. "Brenda Walsh." The powerful voice on the other end responds with immediate, palpable concern. "Yes, I have multiple witnesses and video proof," Evelyn continues. "No, do not reveal my role just yet. I want to see how deep the rot goes in the official procedure. This is a perfect, if unfortunate, test case for the Meridian Protocol." She listens for a moment, nodding slightly. "Thank you, Arthur. There is one more thing. I need Captain Marcus Thorne to meet me at this gate. Immediately." As she ends the call, Evelyn takes a moment to compose herself, closing her eyes and breathing deeply. Years of facing down bureaucratic intransigence and political opposition have taught her the immense power of strategic patience. Brenda Walsh believes she has won, that she has successfully trapped and humiliated a vulnerable target. She has no idea she has just poked a sleeping dragon, a force capable of reshaping not just a single career, but an entire corporate culture. Evelyn returns to the main gate area, where Brenda stands in triumphant conversation with two other staff members, occasionally glancing in Evelyn's direction with open contempt. Evelyn calmly retakes her seat. She opens her tablet and appears to be working, but is actually documenting every detail of the incident. Timestamps, names of witnesses, exact words exchanged. It is all evidence for the storm that is about to break. The terminal speakers crackle to life. "Attention, please. Captain Marcus Thorne, please report to Gate B42 immediately. Captain Thorne to Gate B42. Brenda's head snaps up at the announcement, her expression one of pure confusion. A captain being summoned to a gate for a passenger issue before boarding has even commenced is highly unusual. For the first time since the confrontation began, a flicker of uncertainty crosses her face. In this moment, Evelyn's calm response seems almost superhuman. Most people would be frantic, scared, or furious. Instead, she's collecting evidence and activating a plan. Have you ever been so wronged that the anger becomes a clarifying force, burning away everything but a singular focus on what must be done? What do you think is the difference between reacting to injustice and responding to it? Captain Marcus Thorne strides through the terminal, his uniform immaculate, his bearing exuding a calm authority that commands immediate respect from passengers and crew alike. At 55, he moves with the unhurried confidence of a man who has safely navigated both 1,000-mile flights and tense corporate turbulence. Brenda's expression shifts from confusion to a sycophantic relief. She smooths her supervisor's jacket and prepares her version of events, assuming the captain's arrival signifies high-level reinforcement for her actions. "Captain Thorne," she greets him with a new professional eagerness. "Thank you for coming. We have a serious situation here. A passenger was attempting to travel using fraudulent documentation." The captain's expression remains carefully neutral. "I understand there's an issue with a passenger's damaged passport." Evelyn approaches the group, extending her hand to the captain. "Dr. Evelyn Reed, thank you for addressing this personally, Captain." Captain Thorne shakes her hand, his eyes quickly and expertly assessing the situation. The torn passport, Brenda's aggressive stance, Evelyn's preternatural calm. "Dr. Reed, I understand there has been an incident. Could you please explain what happened from your perspective?" Before Evelyn can utter a word, Brenda interjects. "Sir, I identified highly suspicious alterations in her passport during a standard document verification. When I examined it more closely, the document literally fell apart in my hands. It is clear evidence of tampering." Evelyn maintains her measured composure. "Your gate supervisor deliberately tore my passport in half after I questioned her basis for subjecting me to a level of scrutiny that no other passenger was receiving. I have several witnesses and have also recorded a portion of the incident on my phone." Brenda scoffs. "That is an outrageous falsehood. The passport was clearly counterfeit." "Perhaps we should review the security footage from the gate area," Evelyn suggests calmly. "Every check-in counter and boarding gate in this terminal has continuous high-definition surveillance, correct?" Captain Thorne nods slowly, his gaze still on Brenda. "Yes, they do." He speaks quietly into his shoulder radio, requesting immediate, priority access to the security footage for Gate B42. Hearing this, several passengers who had been watching from a distance now step forward. "I saw what happened," a middle-aged woman in a business suit states firmly. "That airline employee became hostile and destroyed her passport intentionally when the lady asked for a manager." "I have part of it on video," adds a young man, holding up his phone. "She was treating her completely differently from everyone else in the first-class line. It was disgusting." Brenda's confidence begins to waver. Her face flushes. "These passengers don't understand our security protocols. I was performing my duties as required by airline regulations." Captain Thorne continues to observe the scene. The gathering crowd, the multiple recording phones, Evelyn's steadfast calm, and Brenda's increasing defensiveness. His radio buzzes with an incoming message. He listens intently, his expression unreadable. "Ms. Walsh," he says after a moment, his tone shifting, becoming more formal. "Dr. Reed, I believe it would be best if we continued this discussion somewhere more private. Please follow me to the administrative office." Brenda straightens up, misinterpreting this as a validation of her authority. "Of course, Captain. I would be happy to provide a full, detailed report on the multiple security concerns that led to this unfortunate situation. Evelyn gathers her belongings, noting the subtle but significant change in the captain's demeanor. His increased formality when addressing Brenda, the careful, deliberate distance he now maintains from her. As he checks a message on his phone, the last vestiges of color drain from his face. "Yes," the captain repeats, his voice now flat and cold. "Let's continue this conversation in the office." The administrative office is tucked away from the public areas of the terminal, its harsh fluorescent lighting and gray, featureless walls designed for utility, not comfort. Captain Thorne gestures for Evelyn and Brenda to take seats on opposite sides of a small conference table. His movements have become precise, almost ceremonial. Brenda settles into her chair with a confident air, primly arranging the lapels of her uniform. "Captain, I truly appreciate you taking this security breach so seriously. I take all incidents that could potentially affect my aircraft and its passengers seriously, Ms. Walsh," he responds, his tone meticulously neutral. He places his tablet on the table and, without comment, activates its audio recording function. "Let's begin by establishing the facts." Evelyn calmly places the tattered remains of her passport on the table. "I would like to begin by requesting immediate assistance in obtaining emergency travel documentation. My U.S. passport was deliberately destroyed during the boarding process, leaving me stranded in a foreign country without valid ID." Brenda interjects immediately, her voice sharp. "Captain, with all due respect, this passenger was attempting to board with fraudulent papers. I followed established protocol for handling suspected forgeries. And that protocol includes the physical destruction of travel documents?" Captain Thorne asks, his pen hovering over a notepad. "The document disintegrated during my physical inspection," Brenda insists, her voice rising slightly. "It was clearly tampered with. I recommend she be barred from flying any transoceanic flight until her identity can be properly verified by the appropriate authorities." Captain Thorne makes a few methodical notes. "Ms. Walsh, please outline for me the exact procedural steps you took during document verification, starting from the moment Dr. Reed arrived at your counter." As Brenda recounts her self-serving version of events, Evelyn observes the captain's increasing formality. Each question he asks becomes more specific, more detailed. He is not trying to resolve the conflict. He is building a formal record. A sharp knock at the door interrupts them. The door opens to reveal a woman in a crisp, dark suit carrying a laptop. "Captain Thorne, I'm Eleanor Vance from the legal department. I'm joining this meeting as requested." Brenda's confidence finally begins to falter. "Legal? I don't understand why the legal department needs to be involved in what is a routine security matter." "This is now a formally documented incident, Ms. Walsh," Captain Thorne explains tonelessly. "Ms. Vance is here to ensure all proper corporate and international procedures are followed from this point forward." The lawyer opens her laptop, revealing a secure video conference already in progress. 3 faces appear on the screen. One is labeled Director of Human Resources, another Chief of Global Operations, and a third simply Corporate Security. Brenda shifts uncomfortably in her chair. "I really don't understand what is happening." "Ms. Walsh," the HR director begins, his voice carrying clearly from the speakers. "We've received some deeply concerning preliminary information regarding this incident. We are also reviewing a number of previous passenger complaints filed against you that show a troubling pattern." Brenda's face drains of all color. "What complaints? My service record is exemplary." "We have 17 documented complaints regarding your conduct toward minority passengers over the past 18 months alone," the HR director continues, his voice flat and unforgiving. "All of them were marked as resolved by your direct supervisor, without any formal investigation taking place. The noose is tightening, constructed from Brenda's own history of biased actions. To believe she is in the right, she has to believe that a black woman with a PhD and a first-class ticket is a liar, and that the multiple witnesses and cameras are all wrong. How does a person's prejudice become so strong that it completely overrides reality? Can a person be held accountable for a system that has, until this moment, rewarded their bad behavior? Of course I know the policy, Brenda replies, her voice now an octave higher than before. But this was an exceptional circumstance. The passport showed clear signs of forgery. Eleanor Vance, the lawyer, slides a tablet across the conference table. Please use this stylus to indicate precisely where on this document you observed signs of tampering before you damaged it. Brenda stares at the screen. It displays high-resolution photographs of Evelyn's pristine passport, which were taken automatically during the check-in process, a standard, often forgotten, security procedure for all first-class international travelers. The digital images show a document that is in perfect condition. The evidence of tampering became apparent during the physical inspection, Brenda insists weakly. Photographs don't always reveal subtle alterations to the binding. Then you followed the explicit procedure for handling suspected fraudulent documents, Captain Thorne asks, his pen poised over his notepad like a guillotine. Brenda nods vigorously. Absolutely. Which requires, the captain continues, his voice dropping, that any suspected fraudulent documents be retained intact and immediately submitted to the proper airport and governmental authorities. Page 47, Section 9 of the International Security Manual explicitly, in bold type, prohibits any airline staff from damaging or destroying passenger documentation, regardless of their level of suspicion. Brenda's throat works as she tries to swallow. I may have been overzealous in my inspection. In my defense, this passenger was confrontational and uncooperative from the very beginning. Evelyn, who has remained a model of silent composure, finally speaks, her voice calm and clear. I have not raised my voice or used a single unprofessional word during this entire 2-hour encounter. The HR director leans forward on the video call, his eyes boring into Brenda. Ms. Walsh, we are currently reviewing the unedited, high-definition security footage from both the check-in counter and the entire gate area. Would you like to revise any of your previous statements before we proceed? Something in the director's tone, a finality, a weariness, causes Brenda to hesitate. Her eyes dart frantically between the faces watching her, some filled with curiosity, others with a gathering, stern judgment. Perhaps I was mistaken about the extent of the document damage, she concedes, her voice barely a whisper. Let's move on and discuss your documented history with passenger complaints, the HR director interrupts smoothly. We have analyzed every formal complaint filed against our Heathrow gate staff over the past 2 years. You have received significantly more complaints from passengers of color than any other employee by a factor of 8. Brenda's face flushes a mottled red. That's circumstantial. I'm a supervisor. I process more passengers than most staff. Adjusted for passenger volume and seniority, the director continues, the disparity in complaints remains statistically undeniable. You are an outlier. Captain Thorne exchanges a brief, knowing glance with Eleanor. The lawyer nods subtly and presses a key on her laptop. Before we proceed any further, she announces, I am legally required to inform everyone present that this meeting is being recorded as part of an official corporate and international investigation into gross violation of company policies regarding the equal treatment of passengers and the willful destruction of legal travel documentation. Brenda's professional facade collapses completely and utterly. Investigation? I demand to have my union representative present. This has now escalated far beyond a standard union matter, Ms. Walsh. Your actions today have triggered an automatic corporate ethics and governance inquiry, Eleanor explains coolly, just as the conference room door opens again. The door swings open to reveal a distinguished, silver-haired man in his late 60s, Sir Arthur Kensington, the chairman of the board for the entire Transoceanic Air Alliance, enters with the quiet, indisputable authority of a man who rarely needs to raise his voice to command the attention of a room. Brenda's mouth falls open in a silent gasp of shock. "Mr. Chairman," Captain Thorne says, standing immediately. "Thank you for joining us." "Arthur," Evelyn acknowledges with a slight, familiar nod. Brenda's head swivels between them, raw, uncomprehending confusion etched across her features. The chairman takes the empty seat at the head of the table. "I apologize for the interruption," he says, his voice a smooth baritone. "But when I received word of this particular incident, I felt it warranted my personal attention." His eyes meet Evelyn's for a fraction of a second before sweeping across the room. "Please, continue." Eleanor, the lawyer, clears her throat. "We were just discussing Ms. Walsh's history of formal passenger complaints and the clear violation of document handling protocols." Brenda straightens her back, sensing one last, desperate opportunity. "Sir," she says, her voice pleading, "I have dedicated 15 years of my life to this airline. This passenger, she was attempting to travel with highly questionable documentation. I was only trying to protect our company's interests." Sir Arthur Kensington studies her for a long, silent moment. "Ms. Walsh, do you have any idea who this passenger is?" "A business traveler, sir, with documentation issues," Brenda replies, with a sliver of her former confidence. "I see." The chairman turns to Evelyn. "Perhaps, Dr. Reed, this is the appropriate moment for a proper introduction." Evelyn smooths the lapels of her blazer as she rises. The attention of the entire room, both physical and virtual, shifts to her. The transformation is subtle, but absolute. The bearing of the humiliated passenger dissolves, replaced by the quiet, commanding aura of someone who holds immense, institutional power. "My name is Dr. Evelyn Reed," she begins. "I am the director of the Meridian Global Health Foundation." Brenda's brow furrows, the name not immediately registering. Evelyn continues, her voice steady and clear. "The Meridian Foundation's primary benefactor is the Kensington Trust. The chairman, Sir Arthur Kensington, brought me on 6 months ago, not only to lead our health initiatives, but also to chair a new independent ethics oversight committee for all Kensington Trust holdings." The blood drains from Brenda's face as the awful, impossible truth begins to dawn on her. "One of those holdings," Evelyn continues, "is a controlling interest in the Transoceanic Air Alliance. For the past 6 months, I have been conducting undercover, first-person assessments of our subsidiary company's customer service practices. My particular focus has been to audit the effectiveness of our much-publicized anti-discrimination and equal treatment initiatives." Captain Thorne nods, the pieces now clicking into place for him. The HR director on the video screen sits bolt upright, with a look of dawning comprehension. "Today's experience at your gate," Evelyn says, her eyes locking with Brenda's, "was unfortunately not unique. In my assessment flights across our network, I have documented 17 separate incidents of discriminatory treatment. This is, however, the first time that a member of your staff has felt empowered enough to physically destroy my travel documents." Brenda's voice emerges as a choked, strangled whisper. I didn't know." "That is precisely the point, Ms. Walsh," Evelyn interrupts, her voice cutting like a scalpel. "You didn't know who I was. And so you felt entitled to treat me differently, to humiliate and abuse me, based on nothing more than your own personal prejudice. That is the very definition of a systemic failure. This moment of revelation is the turning point for the entire story. The tables haven't just been turned. They've been smashed to pieces. An act of personal, petty racism has collided with a force of immense, hidden power. Is this a satisfying form of justice, or is it simply a lucky break for Evelyn? What about the hundreds of other people who suffered similar abuse without having a secret connection to the chairman? Does this moment fix the system, or just punish one person who got caught? Sir Arthur Kensington addresses Brenda directly, his voice calm but laced with steel. When I appointed Dr. Reed to chair our new ethics committee, she insisted on this undercover assessment protocol. I will admit I was skeptical, but she was adamant that we needed to experience our own service as our most vulnerable passengers do, not as executives. Evelyn retrieves her tablet and pulls up a document, a report filled with charts and data. I have been gathering data on passenger treatment discrepancies across all our affiliated airlines. The patterns are deeply troubling. Minority passengers are 3 times more likely to have their documents aggressively questioned, twice as likely to be randomly selected for secondary security checks, and face, on average, significantly longer processing times at customer service counters. Brenda can only stare at the tabletop, her entire professional life, her identity, collapsing in on her. What happened to me today was not an isolated incident, Evelyn continues. It is a symptom of a deep, systemic sickness that damages our passengers' dignity and corrodes our company's reputation from the inside out. The only difference is that today, it happened to someone who is in a position to force a cure. The room falls into a profound silence. Captain Thorne glances at the CEO, who nods for him to proceed. Ms. Walsh, the captain announces formally, based on the irrefutable evidence presented here and the extreme severity of your actions, your employment with Transoceanic Air Alliance is terminated, effective immediately. Brenda's shoulders slump in defeat. This is unfair, she whispers. It was one mistake. Destroying a passenger's passport in an act of aggression is not a mistake, Ms. Walsh, Sir Arthur states flatly. It is an inexcusable breach of protocol that is, as Dr. Reed pointed out, quite possibly a criminal act. Evelyn turns her attention to the executives on the video screen. I want the full, unedited footage from today's incident, along with the data from my previous 17 assessments, to serve as the foundation for a mandatory, company-wide retraining program. This is not about punishing one employee. It is about fundamentally transforming a corporate culture. The executives on the screen nod in unified, sober agreement. Evelyn gathers her belongings, including the sad, tattered remains of her passport. This entire incident will be addressed at the highest levels of this company, and a summary will be included in my report to the Kensington Trust Board. She turns to Captain Thorne. Captain, I will now require your assistance in arranging for emergency travel documents through the U.S. Embassy. She then looks to the chairman. And, Arthur, I believe we need to significantly move up the timeline for rolling out the Meridian Protocol. Her voice carries the unmistakable weight of a transformation that has already begun. The arbitration hearing room is a sterile, soulless space designed to project neutrality. Brenda Walsh sits rigidly at one of the 2 tables, flanked by her union representative and a lawyer provided by the union. Her once immaculate supervisor's uniform has been replaced by a conservative gray suit, a flimsy armor against the evidence being mounted against her. Across from her sits the Transoceanic Air Alliance team. Eleanor Vance from the legal department, the Director of Human Resources, and an independent arbitrator who will render a final, binding decision on her union's wrongful termination grievance. Ms. Walsh has served this airline faithfully and with distinction for 15 years, her lawyer begins, his voice smooth and practiced. Her record shows an unwavering dedication to passenger safety and security compliance. The incident in question at Heathrow represents an unfortunate high-stress misjudgment, not a terminable offense. In Eleanor Vance, representing the airline, simply activates the large presentation screen on the wall. "We will review the evidence chronologically," she states, her voice dispassionate. Beginning with the security footage from the initial check-in counter, which shows a clear pattern of differential treatment. The screen displays a side-by-side comparison. On one side, Evelyn's check-in, an 8-minute ordeal of scrutiny. On the other, 3 subsequent white passengers in the same first-class line, all with complex international passports, all processed in under 60 seconds each. This pattern is not isolated to the incident in question, Eleanor continues, displaying the now infamous data analysis of Brenda's passenger interactions over the past 2 years. Red clusters on the graph highlight the statistically undeniable evidence of disproportionate security flags and document challenges for non-white travelers. Brenda leans toward her lawyer, whispering urgently. He raises a hand. Objection. This historical data is prejudicial and falls outside the scope of the specific incident for which my client was terminated. The arbitrator looks down at the thick binder of evidence in front of him. The data was provided in your disclosure packet 2 weeks ago, Counselor. Page 47, Appendix C. He responds without looking up. Your objection is noted and overruled. Proceed, Ms. Vance. The hearing progresses methodically through the damning evidence, the gate confrontation, the public humiliation, and finally the high-definition, multi-angle footage of the passport being ripped in half. Ms. Walsh, the HR director addresses her directly. In your initial written statement, you claimed the passport simply fell apart during a routine inspection. This footage clearly shows you applying deliberate, significant force. How do you reconcile this direct contradiction? Brenda shifts uncomfortably. The camera angle is misleading. I was simply testing the integrity of the binding where I had previously noticed signs of tampering. We had the passport fragments analyzed by 2 independent document forensic experts, one here in the UK and one in the US. Eleanor interjects smoothly. Both reports concluded unequivocally that the document was authentic and that the damage resulted from a violent, deliberate application of tearing force, not from any manufacturing defect or pre-existing tampering. The union representative, who had begun the hearing with a confident air, now sits frowning as he rereads the expert reports. His presence, initially a comfort to Brenda, increasingly feels ceremonial as the mountain of evidence grows. The clear, irrefutable nature of the video evidence makes his usual passionate defense of a union member all but impossible, and to even try would risk his own credibility. The hearing ends with the arbitrator turning to Brenda Tmons. Walsh, this panel acknowledges the airline has admitted to systemic failures which are now being addressed. However, your specific individual actions must be accounted for. Do you wish to make a final statement? Brenda rises slowly, her hands trembling. I dedicated my life to this airline, she says, her voice thick with emotion. I made difficult, split-second decisions every day to protect our passengers. If I made a mistake in judgment, it was only because I was trying my best to uphold the security standards I was taught. The panel deliberates for less than 30 minutes. Their decision is unanimous. Termination upheld. The arbitrator's final words hang in the air long after the hearing is adjourned. While the panel accepts that systemic issues may have created a permissive environment, the evidence clearly shows that Ms. Walsh's actions were not a mistake in judgment, but a willful and malicious abuse of authority. Her grievance is denied in its entirety. 6 months after her termination, Brenda Weber's wrongful dismissal suit against the airline is summarily dismissed by a judge who calls the video evidence unequivocally dispositive. Facing potential criminal charges in the UK, she agrees to an out-of-court settlement in which she surrenders her right to ever work in the airline or transportation industry again. Her career, built on a foundation of petty power and prejudice, has been reduced to ashes. 1 year later, Dr. Evelyn Reed approaches the check-in counter at Heathrow's Terminal 5. The terminal itself has transformed in subtle but meaningful ways. The airline's branding now features a more authentically diverse range of travelers. New, highly visible signage clearly outlines the passenger Bill of Rights and complaint procedures in 12 different languages. A QR code for filing a direct, confidential complaint to an independent ethics office is now printed on every boarding pass. Evelyn observes the check-in process with a professional, scientific interest. An agent efficiently and courteously processes a large Nigerian family with complex travel documents, maintaining the same respectful demeanor she shows to the white German businessman who follows them in line. There is no extra scrutiny, no whispered comments, just consistent professional service. Evelyn steps forward, presenting her new passport and first-class ticket. The agent, a young woman whose name badge includes proficiency symbols for English, Spanish, and Arabic, smiles warmly. "Good morning, Dr. Reed. Flying home to Chicago today?" "Yes, thank you." The agent processes her documents with practiced efficiency. "I see you're one of our Platinum members. We truly appreciate your loyalty." There is no suspicion, no surprise, no commentary on her status or her appearance, just the baseline level of professional courtesy that should have been there all along. As Evelyn proceeds towards security, she spots a familiar face. Captain Marcus Thorne, now the director of flight crew training, observing operations with a tablet in hand. He sees Evelyn and approaches with a genuine smile. "Dr. Reed, it's wonderful to see you again. Returning to the U.S.? "Yes, just completed our European Leadership Summit," Evelyn replies. "How is the Meridian Protocol implementation proceeding on the ground?" Captain Thorne gestures toward the bustling terminal. 17,000 staff members have now completed the Advanced Empathy and De-Escalation training. Passenger complaints regarding discriminatory treatment are down 73% across our entire network, and the Secret Shopper program you designed has now been adopted by the International Air Transport Association as an industry-wide best practice. They walk together toward the security area, where passengers move through screening with efficient and uniform respect. "And Brenda Walsh?" Evelyn asks quietly. Thorne shakes his head. "After the arbitration, her story faded. The last I heard, she was working in retail, nowhere near an airport. A sad end, but a necessary one." Evelyn nods, taking no pleasure in the woman's downfall, but acknowledging the just and necessary consequence of her actions. "The most significant change, however," Captain Thorne continues, "is in our internal culture. Staff are now empowered, and in fact required, to report and intervene when they witness a colleague engaging in problematic behavior. The toxic bystander effect that enabled past incidents has been largely dissolved." They pause at the security checkpoint entrance. "I never had the chance to thank you properly, Doctor," Thorne says, his voice sincere. "What happened to you was a gross injustice, but your response, it transformed not just our airline, but is now transforming our entire industry." Evelyn offers a small smile. Systems rarely change without a powerful catalyst. I am just glad that my unfortunate experience could be used to serve a greater purpose. As she proceeds through security, treated with the same quiet dignity as every other passenger, Evelyn reflects on the immense progress of the past year. The Meridian Protocol has expanded beyond a single airline to become a new industry benchmark. 3 countries have now implemented updated aviation regulations based on its framework. And most importantly, thousands of travelers every single day now journey without ever facing the kind of humiliation she was forced to endure, simply because the system has been fundamentally redesigned to prevent it. Her phone buzzes. It's a text from Sir Arthur Kensington. Board-approved global expansion of the Meridian Protocol. Next target for an ethics audit. Our Hotel and Resort Division. Your vision for a more just world is becoming a reality. Evelyn tucks away her phone as she approaches Gate B42, the very same gate where her passport was destroyed 1 year earlier. The space feels different now. Calmer. More humane. As she boards her flight home, Evelyn reflects on the long journey from being a victim of a broken system to becoming the architect of its repair. True power, she realizes, is not found in reacting with anger, but in responding with a strategic and relentless drive to build something better. What began as one woman's humiliation, a single act of petty racism, has sparked changes that now benefit millions of travelers. If you found value in Dr. Reed's story of transformation and justice, please take a moment to like this video. Your engagement helps these important stories of real-world change reach a wider audience. And if you haven't subscribed to Beat Stories yet, please hit that subscribe button and the notification bell right now. We bring you powerful, true stories of justice, redemption, and systemic change every week. Stories that don't just entertain, but inspire action.